Scorpio you. Let's see. All right, I think we are live. Never know until someone comments. Let's just wait 1 second to see if this little number thing goes up. Dun, da, 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 da. Let me know if you're there, guys. The chat is waiting for new messages. I know I did this correctly. Oh, come on. Oh, there it goes. It's like you get so nervous and then you see like a bunch of people like Julie and Martha and Jamie, and they're all here. Hi, guys, and welcome to today's live stream with Dr. Laurie Marbas. If you don't know her, you're going to know her very soon because I've had the privilege of speaking with her at many conferences. She's absolutely fabulous. And when you hear what she's going to announce, you're going to be so excited because, as you know, at least most of us in the United States are doing what's called sheltering in place. And last Thursday, I got both text and email and phone call for every doctor that I go to, basically saying their offices are closed until April 6th, at least. So what do? If you're not well, or if you want to just be more healthy, especially if you're following a plant-based diet, well, we're going to tell you, you are going to have a telemedicine appointment with Dr. Laurie Marbas. So please welcome Dr. Marbas and tell us all about your new venture.
Hi, AJ, and thank you so much for having me. This is a blast. As always, it's always fun to talk to you since the first time I met you. We've always had a lot of fun. Yes, it's called PlantBasedTeleHealth.com, and it's something that we've been working on for, it's a puppy. We've been working on for some time. Anthony Masiello is my co-founder, and some of you may know him. Some of them may actually know him. He's also 160 pounds on a whole food plant-based diet and some of the things. I have about 8 years of experience with plant-based diet with patients. I've worked with Joel Furman as medical director for one of his clinics in Florida. And I've been practicing with my own patients on telemedicine for well over 2 years. And then decided, we really want to focus on the lifestyle component of this. And so it's nutrition, but it's everything else that goes with that. So we can order medications, your labs. We don't want to be your primary care doctor. We want to work with you as your kind of like considered a lifestyle medicine consultant. So we can help you get on track, but we can, lower your medications, including insulin, diabetic medications, high blood pressure, cholesterol, that type of thing, and just really help people get through the navigation of just learning how to be healthy and then those medications that need to be weaned or adjusted.
That's amazing. Now, are you the only doctor doing this, or there'll be several doctors doing this?
Yeah.
And how does one go about getting started with this kind of telemedicine?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I'm the starting one. Our next one starts Monday. So it's myself. I'm in 13 states. I have 3 other licenses pending right now and hope to add even to that. Dr. Chris Miller, who had her own struggle with lupus and found a whole food plant-based diet, did some amazing things with her. We'll be doing a lot of free webinars as well on, talking with our doctors and explaining, they're talking to us about autoimmune disease, diabetes, thyroid, you name it, we'll talk about it. And that's the beauty of this type of day and age with electronics. We also bring on an endocrinologist in May, one even May sooner. We have quite a few docs are coming on board, and our goal is to cover all 50 states by the end of the year, if not sooner.
That's amazing. So to find out about these webinars, so even if you're not a patient, you're going to do these webinars for people just so we can find out more about you. That's fantastic. Yeah. Is there a mailing list to sign up for? Because I've been posting the website. You guys can just click the link. It's plantbasedtelehealth.com.
Right. And as soon as you go and you land on the page, there's several things to consider there. One, you can scroll up and you can see it says make an appointment. It lists all the states that we currently cover, and those that are pending are yellow. Then we also have up on the top bar, there is an about page. You can meet the doctors. You can see a patient portal. So we are a fully functioning EMR. You'll have a full patient portal. There's going to be documentation such as education. You can upload your own documentation if you have prior labs that you would like us to see. But literally we can do everything just like you would see a regular doctor. We're just talking via video chat within the actual EMR or the electronic medical record. And you can do all of this to request an invitation to be added to our portal. You just go on to the very first page, you just scroll down just a little bit. It says request an appointment or make an appointment. and you just type in your information and we'll send you an invite. And there's actual little videos on how to do this. It's a very simple process. Just watch the screen share and you're ready to go.
This sounds fantastic. Jamie says, this is great news. It's so hard to find a plant-based doctor. So if we're already whole food, plant-based and stable, would we just consult with you in addition to opinions from our functional medicine doctor?
Yeah, absolutely. We could cover whatever they need. If they're struggling with, let's say they have a traditional doctor who's not really familiar with the plant-based diet, we can do that. If you're struggling and maybe you have someone who's just beginning to enter lifestyle medicine and you're just like, maybe we can just augment that education for you to maybe relay to your doc. If you have a doctor who you think might be interested in joining us as well, that would be a great thing to share this information with them. But absolutely, we can, if you are like, I really would just like to see someone who's been doing this a long time and see what they're saying, you can just do a one-time visit for sure. Absolutely.
That sounds terrific. But you personally are in Colorado? Is that where you?
I am. Yes.
Yeah.
So all appointments with me will be scheduled in Mountain Standard Time. We do have that shown. Just because I can only do one schedule, I can't do multiple. So I have patients, or states from West Coast all the way to the East Coast. So when you do make that appointment, at least with me, and it'll say these are scheduled in Mountain Standard Time, so that you'll understand that you may need to do some adjustment if you're not Mountain Standard Time yourself.
Well, we have somebody watching all the way from Cairo, Egypt. Could they ostensibly even get an appointment?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we have someone that's international, we can't practice medicine in the sense I can't order labs or medications, but we can certainly consult. And I've done that before previously with patients I've spoken to patients in, oh my goodness, Africa, France, Mexico, Greenland, a few different places.
Great. Some people are just joining in progress, so I'm just going to reintroduce our guest, Dr. Laurie Marbas, and her website, which I just posted, is plant-based-telehealth.com, and she's in Colorado, but she is starting this amazing plant-based telemedicine business where all of us want to have plant-based doctors. We aren't lucky enough to have one, and now you can have one either as an adjunct to your current care. Obviously, you're not going to go to telemedicine if you broke your leg, because but for especially for a disease prevention, those of you dealing with lifestyle diseases like diabetes and autoimmune disease and heart disease, this would be a great thing to have in your toolbox, I think, because like you say, a lot of traditional doctors just don't have a clue.
Right, absolutely. And it's fabulous because there's such the beauty of this is that it's in their own home. They schedule it to when they would, are convenient for them. Like I'm doing evening hours right now because I understand, a lot of people, previous to us all sheltering in place, they were working during the day, and hopefully everybody will get back to be able to getting to work soon. But we want to make it convenient to the patient. Absolutely.
Gina asks, what type of medical doctor are you? And Betty says, what is the benefits of having a plant-based doctor?
Sure. So I am traditionally trained MD. I'm a family medicine physician, board certified in family medicine and also lifestyle medicine. So I've taken the time to really delve into one kind of the behavior aspects and helping people understand how to break bad habits, build new ones. But I've also been working with patients with like diabetics, for example, getting them off insulin. And I've done all that very successfully with telemedicine. The benefits of a whole food plant-based doctor is understanding that if you're a diabetic, I'm not going to tell you eat a low carb diet, which will worsen your diabetes. What we're going to talk about is how to actually decrease medications so that the goal for you is not to even need me very often, if at all. I would love for patients to put me out of business. I really want them to be well and living the life that there should be. I mean, we're here for a purpose, and our purpose is not to be carrying around chronic disease.
Right. How did you first get into, because obviously you weren't plant-based at one point, and now you are, now you're passionate about it. So tell us a little bit about your story, Laurie.
Yeah, thank you. So 8 years ago, I was in rural Colorado. I had just gotten out of the military. I was an Air Force doctor, and I loved my time in the military, but I love my family more. So I had been since in the Middle East and a few other places that were less friendly. I was like, I'm going to go to Colorado. It was a beautiful place and start seeing, just doing regular traditional medicine. I worked in the hospital. I went to the nursing home. I did inpatient, outpatient. But one day I had a patient back in 2012, so this is early on, at least in the medicine for life, plant-based lifestyle medicine. And she said, Dr. Marvis, meat and dairy upset my stomach. Now, I lived in a little town called Rifle, Colorado. So Rifle, if you can imagine, the name kind of gives you the idea. I have ranchers and hunters, and this is the people that I'm dealing with here. Wonderful, beautiful people. But they just have a different thought on foods, as I did at that time as well. But she mentioned meat and dairy upset our stomachs. I said, well, let's stop eating meat and dairy and see what your stomach does, and we'll add foods back in kind of like an elimination type of a test. And I didn't really think about it that just left her a plant-based diet. I mean, it literally just kind of like, I know there's plenty of other foods she'll eat, she'll be fine. But what happened was she came back in 30 days. I had made some notations in her chart about our discussion, and she brought her daughter with her. Her daughter is 16 at the time. And the amazing thing was she actually said, you tell Dr. Marvis what you did. And I thought she was in trouble or something. I was like, oh, geez, your mom brought you to the doctor. What is this about? And she goes, well, I went on this diet with my mom, and I stopped all my ADD meds. I was on 2 of them, and I feel so good. I don't need them anymore. And she's like, and I was like, what? And she's like, yeah. Now you tell me, why was she able to do that? Not in an angry way, but like, why hasn't any other doctor told me that all I have to do is transition my child to a whole food plant-based diet, and they're going to be able to focus so much more? They don't need these potentially deadly medications. And I was like, I don't know, but that's so cool. What did you guys eat? And they literally are saying it's fruits and vegetables and beans and whole grains, and just like these amazing healthy plant foods. I'm like, I'm so intrigued. So the first thing you do is, of course, you go to Google and Dr. Campbell's book came up, and I literally read the China study literally in like 2 days. It's 400 pages in 2 days. And once I got it from Amazon, I was so enthralled, and I was like, well, now what do I do? I had 3 teenagers at home at the time and my poor husband. And, and I was like, well, I need to really make sure I know what I'm doing. And I started thinking, well, I need to transfer one more patient just to really just lock it in. And I had a lupus patient, and she was willing to do this. And over the course of a period of 2 weeks, she went from having headaches daily, migraines, and chronic pain, to her inflammation marks dropped almost 300% in 2 weeks. She dropped 8 pounds, migraines got better. Within 5 months, she was 50 pounds lighter, off 7 to 12 meds, including really strong immune suppressant drugs and prednisone. And so these are some incredible benefits I'm seeing in a very rapid period of time. And at the end of the 2-week period, I was working with this lupus patient. I went home and I said to my family, an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 13-year-old, and my poor husband, I said, we're going on a plant-based diet today, threw everything out except for I had a freezer full of grass-fed beef, because we know we're all told that that's the way to go. And 2 days later, that actual freezer broke and all that meat had to be destroyed. It was really, I consider it a hand of God, but it was an amazing thing. My husband went on to lose 70 pounds. All 3 of my children are still plant-based. They're 26. One will be 24 next month, and one's 21. My daughter's a 3rd-year medical student, and she's also sharing this as she goes into considering, going to be a doctor in this next year. So it's just
amazing.
It's a beautiful thing. I can never tell you that one interaction with one patient in Rifle, Colorado changed my entire trajectory of my life. And I'm so thankful.
Yeah, I heard that when Kaiser first got interested in plant-based, it was the same thing. Some patient got better and they told the doctor what they were doing.
Yep, that's exactly all you have to do. And all you need is the right doctor at the right time who's open-minded. And I've never been one to think that I have all the answers, but collectively, we probably have majority of answers. And so I just went searching for truth, and the truth reveals itself with every single patient. Nobody has a negative side effect from eating a whole food plant-based diet. They all get better to some degree, and some completely have reversal of chronic disease.
That is amazing. So Betty says, thank you for your military service. And
thank
that's
you.
so nice. And Pam wants to know, is there a list of plant-based doctors for each state?
Yes. So right now you'll see my name. Monday, you'll see Chris's name added, Dr. Chris Miller, and you'll see under the name all the states that we're currently licensed in. And, they're relaxing some of the telemedicine licensing requirements right now. We've had our lawyers look at that. I'm a little bit hesitant to just say I'll practice anywhere, just because I'm not sure. It's a very fluid and dynamic environment right now. And so I'm a little hesitant to go beyond my borders of my license, but we'll keep an eye on things. And if things change, if they do a national license, that would be fantastic. I can see anyone anywhere. That'd be a beautiful thing. But as of right now, we're just doing where we're licensed, but we'll have probably well over 30 states covered in the next 30 days.
That's amazing. Betty says, "What? You have grown children? You look great." And Gina says she's too young to have had teenagers. Yeah, she
Uh,
looks like she's just out of college, doesn't
I
she?
will be 50 in October.
Oh my goodness! And I just turned 60 2 days ago. Wow.
Oh, happy
There's,
birthday.
but thank you. There's nothing a plant-based diet can't do, really. If you guys, if you don't do it for health, just do it for vanity. That's what I would say. But I would imagine, like, especially now that, with people, with things being closed down, it's just a perfect time to have telemedicine because unless it's an emergency, you can't even see your regular doctor, at least where I live in Palm Springs, there's no appointments.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you were a new patient somewhere, they've probably canceled the majority of those as well. So if anything, we can, help reassure you or adjust some things and help you during that bridging gap. If you're happy with your current doctor, but they're closed or maybe they're sick, which I hope not. But that would be certainly another thing that we could absolutely help with.
Right. Do you ever anticipate a time in the future where our insurances will actually pay for this? Because it really is such a great idea. And
Yeah.
when you think about the time you spend driving to the doctor, looking for a parking space, paying for parking, waiting rooms where people can get each other sick, I think it's just the way of the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly have certain goals. Right now we are strictly cash pay because insurances are really difficult to deal with, especially Medicare or Medicaid. And it's unfortunate that we can't make a very cohesive plan with someone in using their insurance. But we try to really keep a really lean business so that we can charge them minimal, but yet also help our doctors make a living and do well doing this type of practice so you can actually benefit from their knowledge and services. And yes, I think there will be a time. Our goal is probably eventually, to start working with self-insured groups first, because we want to grow to where we can see, allow people at the minimum rate that they have to pay. If they have insurance and they're paying for it, we want them to be able to use it. But right now it's cost prohibitive for us to grow and expand in a rapid fashion and at least provide the services to someone.
Right. And I think it's just such a great thing. Like, even if somebody didn't see you every week, just as an adjunct, because so many people write me, they have their physical and they get alarmed at their blood tests, which are actually really normal, but because everything is skewed to unhealthy people, they worry about the numbers. And it's so nice to have somebody that understands plant-based nutrition, just reassure them that, yeah, these numbers are actually great. But
Oh yeah. That's a great point and there may be a little bit of supplementation that's needed sometimes, but not everybody. So that's the other thing is we can reassure you. We could, I have some patients that want to see me weekly, others that see me once a month. And my goal would be that like I said, minimum amount as needed. I want you to flourish on your own without having to worry about seeing a doctor, but we need to get you well. And that's what we're experts at doing. So.
yep. Imagine the Good says, yes, telemedicine nationwide would really help out. I think I'm in a plant-based desert in Nevada. If you live in Las Vegas, there is at least one plant-based doctor, Dr. Evan Allen. He was in the movie Eating You Alive.
Oh, wonderful.
So, yeah, so that's, are you on that website where plantbaseddocs.com or .org?
I was on the plant-based docs. I think it's plantbaseddocs.org. But that was my old practice. I probably should update with the plant because I'm also the editor for the journal, the International Journal of Disease Reversal and Prevention. I work with Dr. Kim Williams. I'm their managing editor, and I'm the editor for the digest, which is kind of we're using that as a fundraiser for the free access journal, which is a plant-based basically journal on nutrition, lifestyle medicine. And that's been a fabulous thing, but it's from the Plantation Project, which also runs those websites. So I do need to get us listed now.
do lay people have access to that journal?
Yeah, absolutely. You just go on, it's ijdrp.org. And then you just register for free, and then you'll send it. We're about to launch our 3rd edition, which is really exciting. We launched 2 years ago. Yeah, we've started. It's what a project.
That's fantastic. That's a wonderful job. Will you be coming to the Plantrition Conference in September?
Yep. I've spoken there the last 3 or 4 years, and I'll be speaking again as long as we're having it, I hope.
Yeah, it's in my hometown this year, so that's really good.
Oh, fantastic.
For the first time. Yes, absolutely. You can watch this interview later. You can watch it on my YouTube channel, my Facebook page, and absolutely. Do you guys have any questions for Dr. Marvis, or how her telemedicine practice is going to work, or why it might be something you want to consider doing, even if you have a doctor? I wonder if, you keep watching these things about the coronavirus, and have any of plant-based people gotten it that we know of?
From My experience, no. I'm sure, when we think about these type of viral infections, especially pandemics, we have to understand that we really want a robust immune system. And so the key here is obviously we don't want to get it to begin with. That would be the most excellent thing. Social distancing, washing your hands, washing your face, don't touching your face, keeping things clean, less exposure, wonderful. However, should you get it, we want to increase your potential for survival or minimal symptoms. And that's where the whole food plant-based diet is so key, because we're eating those nutrients that really support an immune system that is our best defense once we are actually infected or exposed. And so I pray and hope, everybody gets well, but I think if you eat healthy, you take good care of yourself, you're getting rest, you're at an a good normal weight, you're eating the proper nutrition, staying well hydrated, decreasing your stress as much as possible, that are going to give you the elements to be well in this type of thing, even if you do get exposed.
Right. Guys, there's always something wrong with my chat. I can't type. So I did type the website at the very beginning. If you scroll up and if somebody else that can use the chat can type it again, it's plant-based telehealth. I don't know why I can't say that word, telehealth.com. And they're also asking if you could please repeat the website for the journal, and maybe somebody could type both of those in.
Sure, absolutely. So it's IJD as in dog, RP as in Paul.org. So IJDRP.org.
Great. What is your opinion regarding mammograms, Dr. Marbas? Sherry wants to know.
Yeah. So I come from a family, strong. My mother had breast cancer, her mother had breast cancer, my grandmother, and all their sisters. So I am a big fan of, you have to look at this as prevention in the sense of nutrition can prevent many, many things. But then there becomes a point that we also should be prudent with monitoring for things. So as far as mammograms, that would be an individual discussion with each patient. So what I've chosen to do is wait until the age that my grandmother, my mother, and all of them actually got cancer. And we've had patients, my family has died from very aggressive breast cancer, but they were closer to 60. They did not eat the way I did. But at that point in my life, I'll make that personal decision. And I think each one has to weigh their genetic profile. Maybe they have, genetics. Diet's not going to change that. So what we do is we look at each person and have that discussion, and I give them the education about what does the science say married with what is their personal desires and wishes. And then we make that decision together.
Yep. Gina wants to know if you've worked with patients that have multiple sclerosis.
Yes, I've actually had a patient in Rifle, was one of my very first patients that year. And what was really interesting, she had been traveling to third world country and came back really sick. So she had fevers and some things, and that actually we think maybe stimulated the immune system, and she started developing symptoms of MS. And then she developed diabetes, and we put her on a whole food plant-based diet. The diabetes went away, she lost 30 pounds, and her MS halted. So the 5 years that I took care of her, she did not have progression.
Well, that's amazing. Absolutely. Thank you guys for posting those two websites. You can see them right here in the chat box. There's a question from Florence: is there a role for nurses in plant-based telehealth?
As of right now, we are just doing physicians, and we may get to a point that we need help. Maybe someone who's going to be like more of a sense of, oh, I'm calling because I didn't get this refill. Can you help me? Do I need an appointment? Someone just like a screening. I have a feeling that need will come quickly. I've used RNs who are an amazing adjunct to any team. They're just, one, beautiful souls, but two, just very knowledgeable. And I can see that being a nurse position. We're just not right yet. We're just getting out the gate, but I have a feeling we're going to be very busy. We've been very busy this morning already, helping patients get on board.
That's fantastic. Tammy wants to know how long you've been practicing plant-based medicine.
I am going over 8 years now. I've been a doctor for longer than that, but 8 years were plant-based.
That's great. It must be very gratifying seeing different patient outcomes now.
Oh, absolutely. The beauty of this is I've also been really focused on understanding why some patients could stick to it very easily and others couldn't. So I've really taken a keen interest in behavioral health And really, how do I help patients overcome these habits of eating and cravings? And that has been tremendous help with my patients. And so it's been help with me just as a person, but to share that knowledge has also been very gratifying. When you get someone off, let's say, diabetic medications, I mean, for example, one patient got off 70 units of insulin, a type 2 diabetic, in 7 days. And he's, going, I can go upstairs and not short of breath anymore, because he was also massively overweight. He had asthma that was never well controlled. And to hear someone's quality of life change and what they're able to do is what I call veggie crack. It really is. It's like crack for me. Like, yeah, I need my daily hit of dopamine. And it's because you've been eating vegetables. So thank you. Let's keep that going.
So why is it that some people are able to do it and some just can't, you think?
There's a few different things. I think one, obviously there's going to be different belief systems. So I think one, we have to get into the mindset, an open mindset. So first we have to move from a closed mindset to an open mindset. And once someone has the open mindset and you share the evidence, so I'm a big fan of sharing science, obviously, and then also understanding the story element, right? So if I can find a patient that I've had in my past that I can share with someone and say, this is how they did it, that will also motivate them. So one, we just have to get the motivation in the open mind, because I could have someone, and I've had a patient who literally just downright refused, and they had all the heart disease, they needed to have a bypass surgery, all these things. He's like, no, I don't want to change what I eat, I just need you to do this for me, okay me for surgery. I'm like, well, okay. So you can only do what I can do. But the other thing I found is that people feel victim to cravings, right? And they feel victim to these overwhelming urges to eat unhealthy when they're stressed or they're bored. They've learned these things since they were small children. And this is where the mindfulness practices come in. And this is not meditation, but it's just awareness, curiosity, understanding how your body is reacting is just a physical sensation, and what you can do to just kind of navigate it and write it out. But if you don't, that's okay too. And just helping people walk through that journey, because what happens, the more they learn, you're dampening the reward component of the habit loop. So that's the beauty of this, is just because then it's like, well, I'm smoking, but if I'm sitting here and I have the cigarette and I'm out here smoking and I'm smelling it and I'm cold because it's raining and nobody wants to be around me when I'm smoking, why am I doing this again? So now that reward is a little, not quite as exciting as it was before. And so you become less inclined to repeat a habit that's not rewarding. So, because that's the whole reason we do habits, is because of the reward. And if it's not rewarding, we're not going to have a habit.
Wow, you must like the work of Dr. Judd Brewer.
Judd is a very good friend of mine. So we actually have done several podcasts. I actually flew out to New York 3 weeks ago before all this really got busy. And we did a webinar together because he's got some amazing answers. We're actually doing another one tomorrow, a webinar. And I got another one actually in the queue I need to upload for my podcast. We're going to talk about physicians and our healthcare workers and the really high stress and anxiety that they're having. And I've had a lot of them reach out to me, and it breaks my heart. And so we're going to do everything we can to support them as well, those on the front lines.
Yeah, I interviewed him this year for my Truth About Weight Loss Summit, and he was great. Actually, I have to have you next year. You have to be a speaker next year for sure.
Oh,
especially now that you have a big business that we want people to know about. So that's even better timing. Imagine
Yes.
the Good, or maybe it's Imaging the Good, asks, have you ever worked with stroke patients?
Yeah, absolutely. So the interesting thing with strokes is that you can have a variety of things happen. You can have a full recovery, you can partial recovery. So the goal here is, one, obviously we want to open up those arteries, feed the brain, make you really healthy, but decrease the risk for a potential another stroke. So that's where we want to decrease, your cholesterol, get your blood pressure under control. Those are the risk factors for stroke. So absolutely. And now, does it mean that you'll get all full if you have some loss of function? Not necessarily, but we're going to put you in the best shape we can for the place you're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Sunny says, would you be able to prescribe lab work for regular annual preventative checkups?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. So we're connected to Quest. We're working on getting our LabCorp interface set up. And so those are nationwide. So absolutely. And you can actually, even if you pay cash, you could probably use your HSA or health savings account. You can also use your insurance at the lab. And then we can provide you a super bill that you can actually submit to your insurance. Other than Medicare, that's illegal. I can't do the Medicare. You can't submit a bill afterwards. But you can see if your insurance will actually cover some of it as well.
Nice. Mia says, can this plant-based telehealth be my primary doctor?
Mhm.
But insurance won't cover a visit as an annual physical, Mia. She talked about that, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. So as far as so I came from training as primary care doctor. So I'm family medicine. I saw newborns. I delivered babies to, I think my oldest was 104. So we're seeing this wide gamut. And the beauty of primary care is that you're involved with so many things. They could come in with a broken ankle, or you could come deal with someone I've had with acute, heart failure, end up in the hospital that day. So there's all sorts of things you're working with. I don't feel comfortable being someone's virtual primary care doctor. I consider us kind of a consultant, a lifestyle medicine consultant. We can take over many of the chronic disease components of primary care. But when it comes to primary care, like I can't listen to your heart. I can't, look at those moles on your back. I can't, do certain things virtually. I wish I could. That would be amazing. But I can't. So I don't feel comfortable saying, yeah, rely on us for everything, because I think that's unfair to the patient when I have to say, oh, I need you to go see someone and they don't have that established relationship.
Yep. Jane asked if you practice in 50 states. She did say right now it's only, I believe, 13 and 16 to come.
Right. And then Chris will join us, Dr. Chris Miller, who had lupus. He's an amazing human. Just one of my, she's just one of those people that you meet and you're like, I need to be like that human. And so she's incredible. She actually will be starting with a couple, and then by the end of 30 days, we're doing the compact. I'm hoping she'll be another 15 or 16. So we're hoping to hit 30 soon.
That's fantastic. Let's see. Judy asks, how do you switch to plant-based when others in your family don't believe in it? I mean, how can you not
Oh,
believe in it? I just don't understand when all the evidence there, how can they say it? They don't believe in it.
yeah, absolutely. So that's the tricky thing. So it really depends on the dynamic of the relationship. Like for me, my husband's like, well, you're still cooking, right? Now he's like, yeah, he's like, whatever. So, and my children knew better than to question me. I went through medical school. My kids were 5, 3, and 10 months when I started medical school. And now my daughter's in medical school. So I was never anybody's short order cook. They either ate what I fixed or they didn't eat till the next day or the next meal. And that worked out okay because they weren't picky. So that for me, it was really simple to come home and say, these are the rules. This is how we're doing it. And they've all benefited. Now, that's not every household. And I'm very fortunate to have set that up, I think probably unknowingly. When you're working with someone, like if it's a spouse, this can be a little tricky, right? So who's doing the cooking? Okay, if you're doing the cooking, this is fairly straightforward. You cook your meal, they can either add or cook their own, or you can cook a separate, whatever it is they want, but you're going to feed them majority is whole food plant-based, right? So they're going to get that benefit. Now, if you have someone who continues to bring in unhealthy foods into the home, that's a family discussion, right? This is a sit down moment and say, listen, maybe you have diabetes or you have high blood pressure. You're going to sit down and say, listen, I know I have chronic disease and I know the science says, and my doctor says that I can get better eating a different way. I cannot have you sabotaging me. And it's like, that's where you really have these serious discussions, and it's an open communication, and they still may have some struggles, but maybe they'll back off a little bit. And it's just really sharing your goals and where you see yourself, because that only benefits them, right? So one of my favorite patients was in Rifle, Colorado. I had a patient come in. Oh, she's a sweetheart. She's lost 40 pounds. And she told me, she was, Dr. Marvis, you don't understand. Coming to this, I wanted to just feel better and lose weight. And she goes, well, what happened was now I actually have more energy to spend time with my husband. We're closer. We do more things. I have more energy to spend with my kids. I'm not moody anymore. I'm excited to be up in the morning. I'm happy to be with him. So that relationship has now spiraled upward. There's so many wonderful things that happen, right? Your emotions, your physical being, your mental well-being, your spiritual well-being, all of that just improves, and everybody benefits. And if you're still struggling, that's where we have one-on-one conversations. That would be a great opportunity to come talk to someone like myself or Dr. Miller and really understand, or even a coach like you who can understand those dynamics of those relationships and help you kind of navigate. But then also saying, sometimes people go say, listen, I don't know why I'm doing this. My doctor just said I had to, and I just have to do what my doctor says. You know how it is. And that's okay too. I will burden the blame, bring it on. Just like, I'm happy to help you figure out what in a less pushy way to do it, or if you just want to go in and say we're doing it, that's okay too. There's lots of different ways with each family, all the different relationships involved. But everybody benefits in the end.
Yeah, great. Kathy says my husband has to have meat, so he has to fix it now. Good for you. I always tell people, give your family two choices, take it or leave it.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. We also had with our kids, they loved. I said, you guys can vote on the meals, and they loved that. So they could at least feel like they could give feedback, and I was determined. I become a very good actually cook. And the interesting thing is we go out, I said, you guys can order whatever you want. If you want meat or dairy, that's fine. But at home, that's not coming. That's not going to happen. And what happened was over the course of about a year, what I started seeing was instead of chicken, they were ordering tofu. And I was like, So because I kept educating, I kept making them watch Forks Over Knives, I kept sharing these amazing stories of recovery. And they watched their dad literally transform, lose 70 pounds, do his first, full triathlon. And, he'll be 50 in a week. And I was like, it's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. So they see the evidence and they don't want to turn out like their friends. Like they're having friends who have type 2 diabetes in their teens or young adults. And our 18 to 35-year-old, that cohort in the United States has the highest risk of rectal and colon cancer. They've doubled the risk and quadrupled the risk. And so this is really serious. We have to be doing better for our kids and our future.
Wow. Speaking of colon cancer, there was a question here, but the feed goes very fast. Yes, it was, what suggestions would you have recovering from colon cancer surgery, asks Claire.
Yeah, so I think it would depend on how far out you are from the surgery. You have to be a little bit careful because there may be some limitations on the recovery period and that type of thing. But a whole food plant-based diet absolutely would be phenomenal for you. You just have to may change the consistency. You may have to do more cooked type vegetables and things first, and then move it to more of the raw and things. But yeah, that would be, again, looking at her symptoms, how far out she is, what are her current needs. Does she just have a partial colectomy, a full colectomy? Because that really makes a difference if you remove part of the colon versus the entire colon. There's a lot of side effects from that alone. You have to look at potential nutritional deficits, things like that, hydration, lots of different things there to consider.
Yeah. Tammy says, I told my husband that I'm not working this hard to be healthy so that I can take care of him as we age. LOL. Horrible, maybe, but the truth is I want a quality of life, and taking care of someone who didn't care is not my idea of quality. I don't think it's our job to wipe our spouse's asses as they get older because they had a stroke from eating poorly.
Right. And I think that's where the communication comes in. And it's funny because my husband, during his transformation himself, he felt so good. He's become my biggest support. Like, he's telling people where he works or did work, and people at church, and he's like sending people my direction way more than I look at, wherever I'm interacting with people. He's like on it. So that is where it's really important to have those conversations and understand, I care for you. I'm worried about you because you have high blood pressure, or you have this, or you have that. There are some spouses who have good genetics, like they'll probably live to be 80 with bad diet, and that they would eat well, they probably live to be 105, right? So there's those people who never get really, really sick either, which is, those are the difficult ones to transform sometimes. But it's it's a conversation, right? And just saying, I love you and I need you to be healthy so we can have a long, quality, healthy life, not you may live long because of technology and medicine, but are you really living if you spent 10 years after a stroke, drooling and unable to feed yourself and not know who I am? So this is not the life that we want. We want this. And I also try to do small challenges, right? So it's like, can you do this for me for 30 days? And if you don't feel better, like you really don't feel better, then I won't say another word. I mean, those are some other things you can consider. It's just a few, challenges. Who doesn't love a good challenge to prove someone wrong? But you won't be proved wrong. That's the beauty of
So
it.
many people are so stubborn, about this. Like we just had a neighbor diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I gave him all the evidence from Dr. Ornish. She's like, nope, like my meat, like my alcohol. Nope. I mean, they don't even try.
Right. And that is unfortunate, but that's also, that's our free nature. And so we can make those choices. And it's just unfortunate people don't understand every single day choices have long-term consequences, because my diabetics didn't get there overnight. it took at least 10 years of hard work, shoveling the wrong foods into our bodies to get there. But that can be reversed in many, many cases. And it's so unfortunate to see someone suffer. And that's the other thing. When I work with patients, I really try to understand where they're coming from. So what are their pain points? I feel like I have to be a better marketer for lifestyle medicine than whatever they're choosing, right? So I need to find the levers that I can pull to say, you know what, I want that. I don't want this anymore. So I need to show that the reward of this behavior is not as good as the reward of this amazing life that you could lead. And that is my job, is to help someone see, take off the blinders to the beauty of the potential of a healthier life and what normal feels good, right? Normal is not chronic disease, guys. Chronic disease is not normal. We are meant to grow old and live a healthy lifespan and die quickly, not die over 30 or 40 years, because that's what we're doing right now in the United States. But chronic disease is not normal. And I'm not saying I'm at a judgment, but we've normalized chronic disease. We've normalized diabetes, that, oh, I've been told by my doctor that I'll have it forever. No, it's not normal to develop diabetes, and it's not normal to say it's okay, you're just going to continue to get worse. That's absolutely not the truth.
We've normalized obesity too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is so sad. But I mean, I have one patient, she's lost 268 pounds. Her first 200, if I remember correctly, was 14 months. I was with her for 6 weeks in the beginning. She lost 50 pounds in 6 weeks. And to walk out to a parking lot with her and watch her do a seatbelt and cry because she could actually buckle her seatbelt gave me a completely new appreciation for the struggle that people who are carrying extra weight go through day after day. And it just tore me apart inside out, but I put back together was like, I'm more determined than ever to show people you don't have to suffer. And sometimes people struggle with the weight loss too, right? This is going to be like this. And, people are like, I want to lose weight in a straight line and just be like that. There's going to be like this. There's going to be challenges and journeys. And that's kind of where we are great. Someone like you, like a coach or a doctor, can help someone navigate those ups and downs and understand this is just a normal part of finding your journey back to health.
You said about being a better marketer for the plant-based diet. So many people,
Yeah.
when they get diabetes, they go to their doctor and their doctor tells them to go on a keto diet. And then they're like, well, but if it wasn't good, my doctor wouldn't have told me that.
Right. And, you gotta understand. So our physicians are doing everything they can for you. They care about you. They want to do the best, but they were given tools to put in a toolbox. Okay, so this is how I look at it. You have a toolbox when you walk out of medical school. They hand you a degree and say, go forth to your residency. You get more tools. At the end of that, you have so many tools in your toolbox. If you are lucky, you've been told about the value of nutrition in a whole food plant-based diet. You have an amazing tool in your toolbox. If you haven't been given that education, that is not the doctor's fault. Now, if they've been presented that information and they chose to walk away from it, that is, I consider, negligence. But when you have someone who doesn't have the knowledge or understand the value of this nutrition, I mean, I had patients say, or a doc asked me how much cholesterol is in an avocado. I was like, none. So they don't even understand the basics of understanding plants don't have cholesterol. Okay, that's why your cholesterol will drop 100 points in 30 days. And so some people, I've had a doc ask me, well, don't we have to eat cholesterol? I was like, no, your liver will make all you need and probably then some. So, there's some things there we need to understand with our education of our young physicians. That's why it's so important, Dr. Clapper's work, right? What he's doing with moving medicine forward and talking to these young doctors, like my daughter who wants to go into family medicine. I'm so excited for her because I was like, Emily, you're going to touch so many millions and thousands of lives because you touch 1,000, they touch another 1,000 and a 2,000. And imagine the impact you're going to have on so many people. I mean, what a joy to start out like that. It took me a while to figure it out. She's starting it early, which is great.
I was going to ask you about your daughter because you didn't have this information when you went to medical school, but isn't she extra frustrated because she knows the truth and still has to learn what she has to learn?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting, but she's actually been sharing this information with, I think she considers it a challenge. She's a little bit more stubborn than I am, which is stubborn. So it's probably a blessing for her at this point to be in that transitional generation, I think. But she's taken it as an opportunity to share with other medical students. And she's so thrilled when she's like, hey mom, so-and-so is doing this. And I was like, that's awesome, Emily. Or she's like, and I shared with this patient today, and so it's really fun to see my hard work shared with the education really enlighten her, and then see that ripple effect, 2-3 degrees away from me. These are people I'll never meet, but she's touching their lives because I took the time to educate her. And that's the other thing, right? We each of us have a responsibility. If you know the power of nutrition, don't hold it to yourself. You need to tell that to everybody, because you don't know the lives that 2 or 3 removed from you that you're going to affect by sharing that one message. And it's so very critical that we all do our part.
Great. So if we go to the website plantbasedtelehealth.com to sign up for an appointment, how long does it take to get an appointment? How long are the appointments generally?
Yeah, so we right now, because of our EMR, it's a technical, we can only do half-hour appointments, which is pretty good because we have some pretty fairly extensive questions that we get a lot of information up front, so we don't have to spend that time, asking the questions and documenting. So yeah, I'm seeing patients now. I've already been seeing patients. And I'm seeing patients right now on Tuesday, Thursday evenings. Will be increasing as I see the need. And then of course, Dr. Miller's coming on board, and she'll be also having a lot more appointments during the daytimes as well. And so what will happen is you go on, you request an invite to the portal. What happens, you'll get an email. The email invites you to create a patient portal. You go through the patient portal, and we have videos on there. They're how-to videos, and you click on those if you have any questions on actually what to do. It's a step-by-step, really well done. And what will happen then is you create the patient portal. You can select, make an appointment. And the beauty about a patient portal is that is your hub, right? So all labs come right back to you there. You can always go and access them there. You can send me text messages or questions. You make your appointment, you start your appointment at the patient portal. So everything is literally and you can log into the patient portal from our website. You'll see a little tab up on the top. And so it's all right there. So I have open appointments this evening. So
that's great. So sign up right now.
Exactly.
Well, so here's the thing. Holly says, if you can choose one book for us to read while waiting to see you, what would it be? I'll have her answer that, Holly, but apparently you can get an appointment tonight, so there is no waiting.
Exactly. If I had one book choice, I think it would really just depend on this person and like what they have. But a lot of my patients are diabetics. I have them read Mastering Diabetes books. I love Cyrus and Robbie's work. They do phenomenal work with patients, and I've seen a lot of their clients, and it's been an amazing thing. So yeah, absolutely, it's a great book. And of course, any of Dr. Greger's books are fantastic as well.
Terrific. Sunny says, my husband and I have been on an SOS lifestyle for a year now. I think you might mean SOS free, thanks to Chef AJ. He's never been overweight, but still suffers from high cholesterol and high triglycerides. What do you think that is, doctor?
Yeah, so that's where it's going to be important that, when we say we're SOS free or whatever, I'd look at different things. I'd have them fill out, foods. I'd talk to them about their family history. Is there any alcohol involved or anything? So there's a lot of different things that may go in with that. And sometimes it's genetics. There are some genetic factors involved. And that's where we just kind of have to, we start peeling back the layers of an onion until we get down to the core and say, okay, this is what's going on. Because if you've optimized the diet and you're still having some struggles, then that's probably where genetics comes into play.
Fantastic. Let's see. Dina says, we went back on the cruise again and tried, but it only lasted 4 months. Now he is more carnivore than ever before. I think that being introduced to vegan gourmet cuisine sets the bar too high. That's interesting. I guess her husband was vegan and then fell off.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Well, they have you to follow delicious recipes and things. I think it's just a matter, then it's small introductions, right? So what can you make that he likes healthier, right? So is it spaghetti and meatballs? Okay, well, let's make some lentil walnut balls, or I don't know. And there's all sorts of, moving in that direction is where I would say suggest starting. And, but if you're 100% and he's more likely to go 100%. So you need to be 100% as well, though. So I would start with myself if I was the person, and then start working on the others in the home if they're not willing to join you right away. But I would certainly get yourself on board And you're going to hear people that are like, oh, you did it and you couldn't stick with it. Yeah. It's like, well, you know what? That is life. I've learned from my mistakes and I'm getting back on course. Who said I had to give up? Life is not over yet. Let's keep going.
Wow. She says she cooks simply and he wanted the high-end gourmet food he had on the vegan cruise. I didn't even like that food, so I don't know. To me,
Yeah, I think it depends on you. So he has really rich taste, right? So you have to think about these type of things. So his taste buds are ready for fat and salt and oil and all these things and just grabbing. So his taste buds have been hijacked by really, unhealthy, highly processed foods that are, all these things. So his poor taste buds don't know what real food tastes like. So that's the key here, is helping him come off it. And so I would say a challenge might be a good option for him. Say, well, let's see what eating simply does for you in 7 days or 2 weeks, right? It takes about 2 weeks to reset those, the salt palate, where you decrease that desire, craving. Give him a short period of time to see how, if he can feel better, maybe, because fatigue, honestly, guys, I don't know anyone who's not suffering from stress and fatigue. And when you start eating this way, you feel better, you sleep better, you have less stress. And people notice that. When you give someone energy, I tell them it's like giving someone money, right? This is things you can spend on doing things that you enjoy. So there's lots of different things there. Again, I would say, start simply, but maybe look at some of the more recipes that are a little bit more involved and say, okay, I'm willing to work with you, but I need you to eat healthier. I'm going to do once a week. I'm going to dive into gourmet, whole food, plant-based diet, whatever that may take me, 2 hours versus 1 hour, whatever, make some type of compromise, but there's lots of ways to approach it.
yep. Misty says, how do you respond to a doctor that says to my husband, your bad cholesterol number is too low and I want you to take a medication to raise it. His full cholesterol number is 196, finally under 200. Do you ever talk to people's doctors on their behalf?
No, I haven't, but that is a very interesting thing. They want him to take medicine to make it higher.
Yeah.
I think you need another doctor. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but that's not cool. That's not cool at all. No, he needs to be under 150.
Yeah.
No, that disturbs me actually.
Judy says, what's the best way to start to become plant-based?
Wow. So I think it depends on the person, right? So if you have someone, like I grew up in a home with no money. So like my grandmother would bring us food on a monthly basis. And if it wasn't for her, we probably would have been hungry. I mean, we grew our own vegetables. We ate a lot of beans and a lot of potatoes. So I was really lucky because I had a lot of plants because they were cheap. So you grew up in a peasant family, you're going to eat like a peasant. So I was lucky. So introduction to more beans to my diet was not really foreign. But if you have someone who's eating a standard American diet and they have little fiber and you throw in beans and you go full bore, it can be a lot. So what I do is I transition people slowly over 3 weeks. Some people like me just go overnight, but I'm special. I'm a unique, stubborn, difficult person sometimes. So for amazing majority of people, I go over 3 weeks. Breakfast, let's start with breakfast. For a whole week, eating whole food, plant-based diet. Is that oatmeal? Is that tofu scramble? Whatever you flavors that you might enjoy. So let's start there with breakfast and we see how they do. Then we start planning for the next week for lunch. Breakfast is the easiest. And then we do breakfast and lunch for a week. And then by the end of 3 weeks, we're doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that is the easiest way I've seen people transition. One, they just need to learn to shop. I've done videos on how to shop, look at, looking, reading ingredients, keeping the foods that you already plant-based in your diet that you already like. What type of diet, menus that you already have that you like that you can maybe make healthier, all plant-based. So that's how I typically get people to start. It's not too intimidating. And they're like, oh, I can do that. I'm like, yep, you sure can.
That's terrific. Let's see. Judy says, what happens when your spouse goes grocery shopping and brings home meat, chicken, and processed food?
You say you're not going shopping anymore.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, so that literally would be my answer, is like, I have to do the shopping. I mean, that's just, honestly, I've done that. I've always been the shopper because I've always been the cook at home. My husband's, definitely going into shopping now, but especially since I've been busy doing all this, he's kind of picking up a little bit more of that type of stuff. And honestly, I was like, then if you have a child, you don't let them walk into a street and get hit by a car. Well, you don't let someone who doesn't know how to, shop well, bring home food that's going to tempt you or make him further sick. You just say, no, let me go shop, just get it done beforehand. Like, we're going to plan out our meals for the week so we don't have less exposure. Let's use COVID-19, for example, use that as an excuse. Like, we are going to have to plan for 2 weeks. So let's sit down and plan out our meals. And that's not going to include, these things are off the list. You know, if you have a planned out menu, one, it's going to save you money because you'll have less impulse buying. And two, you're going to be able to plan ahead and work with everybody's desires, tastes, whatever. And so that's what I would suggest, is that he just doesn't get to do the shopping. And if he does, they buy him a separate fridge or a little fridge that he has to keep in the garage and make it like a smoking.
Yep.
So yeah, that would be my starting point anyway.
Very good. Debbie says, I've been eating whole food plant-based since March 2017. I follow Forks Over Knives, Dr. McDougall, and Chef AJ. I've lost almost 50 pounds, and my fibro and lupus are no longer much of an issue. I work out every morning before work and walk 50 to 60 minutes at least 5 times a week. I'm very healthy. However, I have 12 pounds to reach goal. And yes, my goal is realistic. Nothing is working. What changes could I try? You know, when you say you follow me, are you actually in my program and doing my program? Because I don't recognize your name, because just watching my YouTubes, I mean, following me and doing my program is completely different. So that's the first thing I would ask, but then I would ask Dr. Marbas to comment.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where, so they did a study where they asked registered dietitians to actually do a recall of the foods that they were eating the day before, and they were off by 1,000 calories. So I think it's really important that tracking what you're eating is ideal, because then you can go back and say, oh, wow, this is what I did, and do it over a week period at a time and look back over a week. And that's where, by doing that, I can see the realistic picture of what you're actually consuming. You're exercising, you know, you've made some amazing strides, and now we just got to struggle with that last 10, 12 pounds. And that's where we just tweak the diet. Maybe we consider doing some intermittent fasting, some other things that we can do to actually maybe changing up what you're doing as far as exercise might be an option too. Some different types of exercises might actually be more beneficial for that. So depending on the person and what's going on, I would say, yeah, there's definitely some things we can do. But again, it goes back to what's going in the mouth, and let's really focus on what are we putting in, and then we can readjust on a few other things too.
I believe it was Dr. Walter Kempner who said, all dieters are liars.
Exactly. So yeah, if you're really struggling with the last 10 to 12 pounds, like I said, and then there's also some other things to consider. If you have a history of lupus, so there's an autoimmune disease, like I've been diagnosed with hypothyroidism at the age of 20. How old was I? Geez, my youngest middle one. So I was pregnant with my middle one, and he's almost 24. So I was 25. So I've had this almost for 20, well, it's a long time, 25 years. And I went to a whole food plant-based diet. My thyroid got better 15 years into eating. I mean, seriously, 15 years after diagnosis, my diet improved my thyroid. And I'm still in a small amount. It's the only issue I have. But my dosage dropped dramatically. And so that may be the thing is, let's check out your thyroid. Maybe there's a little bit of an issue there, because once you have one autoimmune disease, you're higher risk to getting another. So there may be some other things involved. And that's where a physician is super helpful, because we can check all those things. We know to check those things.
Yeah, there actually was a question about hypothyroidism. The person was saying they have Hashimoto's and they were suggested to go gluten-free, but can they have pasta once in a while?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So gluten, you know, I don't eat much gluten products, but I will eat some whole wheat on occasion, some things. So I think gluten-free is a good starting point, absolutely. But you should do whole food plant-based gluten-free if you're going to do that. And if you do pasta, I would do a bean pasta or a veggie pasta. And I wouldn't do it very often, just because it's a processed food. We want to try to stick to more like maybe zucchini noodles or something like that.
Nice. Question is, can plant-based eating help a child with autism?
So the studies on that are not clear. I don't think there's been a lot of research in that area, but let me explain. One, feeding your children something that's going to be less anti-inflammatory to the entire body is always going to be a benefit. So, you know, autism is still kind of a mystery disease in the sense of what's causing it, what are the risk factors, why are we seeing so many more cases? So my goal would, as a parent, is always to feed my child the best foods I can, so they have the best fighting chance to be, you know, one, autistic children, if they're eating processed foods, you may see these swings in behavior, just like you do in regular kids, right? Because just like the kid that I worked with who had the ADD, right? She got better. So there may be a component of behavior change that you see that it's a more calm. They're going to have less runny noses and colds because their immune system's better. So there's going to be benefits outside of the actual autism. But as far as the science, I cannot tell you one way or the other, but I'd say let's get your child healthy as possible. So when he encounters those type of things, they're better prepared.
I hear from so many parents that I've worked with that themselves are overweight or food addicts that, well, they have to have the junk food in the house because their child is on the spectrum and is picky and will only eat crap.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about parenting. Right. So I have raised 3 kids. They trust me. They gave me, they were amazing kids. I was truly blessed. But they always made, they're stubborn, but they're successful, but we push them. But parenting is so key. So let's think about our child. Okay. So if I have a child who's throwing a fit, I want this, whatever, right? I see parents all the time. I'll give you ice cream. I'll give you candy. I'll give you this. So now what are we doing? We're literally creating the habit that our child is going to now have to deal with for the rest of their lives. We're setting them up for obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and everything that comes with that. Higher risk of cancer, shorter lifespan. By starting this habit, oh yeah, if I throw a fit, I can get candy. I'm going to get a sugar rush, dopamine hit, reward. Right? So what are we doing? We're reinforcing this bad behavior, these bad habits, which makes us more frustrated, makes the child frustrated because they have to resort to this type of behavior to get something that they think that they want. But now let's back up and say, okay, I have a child. It's my garden, right? I'm a big fan of thinking of parenting as gardening. My little seeds are my kids, right? I want to cultivate them. I want to water them and give them sunshine and tenderness and talk to them. But on occasion, there's going to be a weed. We've got to pull the weed. And is it hard to get someone who's been eating a standard American diet to whole food plant-based diet? Of course. Nobody said this is easy. But guess what? It's worth it on the other end of all those struggles. And I'm telling you guys, 30 days with a kid, they're not going to have a choice unless they're teenagers and can go drive somewhere with their own money. If they are not driving, whatever you put into that home, it's your fault. That is, you are the parent. And I hate to take it, but you have to understand these are your children. These are your responsibility. We have to raise them correctly to understand the value of nutrition. Kids 18 to 35, guys, that's the highest risk for colon cancer and rectal cancer in the US. That's our babies. This is my baby's generation. This is not acceptable. You should not sit by and go, this is not right. So yeah, it's hard to be a parent that I'm not going to be my kid's friend. I'm never going to be my best friend as my child grows in that struggle. I'm your parent. I love you and we have a wonderful relationship. As they become adults, now I'm more in that friend role. Like I offer my opinion when asked. I'm learning. I don't push it on them. I don't have control. But that beautiful thing that we did in the beginning that was so hard really made for life much easier. Because when they were teenagers, they did what I asked. Because when they were little, I said, these are the rules and the boundaries to keep you safe. And so that's so very key. And that includes nutrition. And if you have in the home the healthy stuff, when they go to eat something, like if they go to a birthday party and you allow them to have the cake, which is fine, they're not going to taste good because it's going to be too sweet and gross. They're going to go, ooh, they won't feel well. They'll get a tummy ache and that'll pretty much cure themselves. I have a great story of my youngest, Gabriel. He loves it when I tell these stories. Freshman in high school, right? Amazing athlete, cross country, didn't quite make it to state, but he was such a great kid. They took 2 kids off the team to travel with the one child who actually made it to state. Gabriel, that was real close to, I think within that first year of us transitioning, his coach always gave me a hard time. Oh, vegan, plant-based. I'm like, you know what? My kid is healthy and I'll tell you why. But when they were going, what they say, they're like, oh, come on, Gabe, eat the ice cream, eat the hamburger, eat the pizza. Gabe came home that night on a Saturday night. He's like, Mom, I'm not feeling well. I'm tired. I'm just going to go to bed. I think, he stayed up all night. He calls me from his room at 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning. He goes, Mom, I have a really bad stomachache and I don't feel good. So I go up. He is doubled over in pain. And this is a kid who played varsity baseball, got hit with baseball. I mean, this kid is tough. Like he doesn't complain, but he is wrenching pain. And I'm like, what did you eat? And he's like, well, mom, all my friends were having, ice cream and pizza. I'm like, I'm going to kill your coach. So here I am, I'm calling up the ER where I work. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm going to bring in this child who knew better to eat this, but we're going to come in because I'm worried about his appendix because it was moving to this right lower side. Oh yeah, I was worried. We get there, his white count was normal, and then within a couple of hours it was high, it had elevated. So a white blood cell count tells me that there was inflammation and stress in the body. And they did an ultrasound, his appendix looked okay. He ended up being admitted because morphine was not even breaking this pain.
Wow.
And by the next morning, it had finally passed. The white blood cell count came down. And let me tell you, I never had another problem with that kid eating well. Because these are the things that he had been, at home, he did not get that. And he was already making this transition on his own. When we did go out, he was already eating healthier. But when he just pounded his body with these unhealthy foods, he really struggled. And that made a huge impression on him. So these are the things that, we're like, when I was a kid, I was always constipated because we always had dairy. And then you grow up, you're like, oh, I don't have to be constipated? What? It's amazing. So anyway.
So very nice comment from Gina. You're blowing me away. Dr. Marvis is amazing with very insightful answers. Well, then hop on over to plantbasedtelehealth.com and make an appointment today. Operators are standing by. So I think we have time for just one more question.
Sure.
And that is, well, first Dina says, did you give that coach a piece of your mind?
Yes, I did.
Good for you. So last question, and if you want more from this fabulous Dr. Laurie Marbas, you can make an appointment for your own telemedicine appointment at her website. And Elizabeth says that's a great story. So Claire wants to know what your thoughts on HRT are.
Okay. So this again, so there's a few different things you got to consider here. So number one, HRT, for those who don't know, is hormone replacement therapy. You might hear bioidentical hormones, things like that, anti-aging. So menopause, guys, is not a medical condition. It's a normal aspect of every single woman who lives long enough to live through having a period and not having a period. That's just the normal phase of life. We have turned it into a medical condition to fight. And when you think about HRT, it increases risk for several things: heart attacks, strokes, breast cancer, things like that. It's certainly not a reason to take these for osteoporosis prevention. And there's other things you can do. Now, if I have a young person, let's say 30 years old or a 35-year-old who had to have a hysterectomy because, let's say, maybe her, had a uterine rupture during pregnancy and had to have an emergency, or, something like that. Yes, those are appropriate to put together with, the right amounts. And I've done that with patients till you get to a certain age where menopause would be occurring naturally. Now, I also have patients who are menopausal who are really struggling. Like, they have some serious, it's disrupting to their life for a short period of time during that transition. It might be something to consider. Definitely not longer than 5 years. And that's a conversation with the patient along with the lifestyle stuff, because when you have someone move to a whole food plant-based diet, changing their lifestyle, getting better sleep, better rest, moods improve, sleep improves, those flashes improve. Let me tell you, I'm at this age, I'm perimenopausal. I get it. It's not fun to have hot flashes, but they come on occasion. I'm understanding, but it doesn't mean I'm going to jump on board with HRT because, one, there's that breast cancer risk factor in my family. I'm not going to do that. So that's a conversation, but that is typically my general starting point, and I educate patients on that. So there's not going to be a magic pool to aging, but I feel like we should age gracefully with the least amount of chronic disease as possible.
Nice. And if you see how thorough her answers are here, imagine if you had your own appointment. Rhonda says, can you please give the website again before you end this? Yes, it's telehealth.com. And if you scroll up, we have posted it in the chat many times so that you can just literally click the link. Deanne says, is this only available in the States? I am in Canada.
Yeah, so we can do, like we had spoken about earlier, international visits. I can't prescribe or give medications. I can just give you it's more like a coaching relationship once you're outside of the country. But if you're close to the border, just maybe drive over to one of those states.
Yeah, just your consult, just cross over to, yeah, exactly. Well, this has been, thank you so much for your time. I wish you really so much success. I appreciate what you're doing, not just because of the uncertain times we're in, just because this has just been a much needed thing, because people are always asking me, well, I don't have a plant-based doctor where I live. And I'm like, well, now you do, at least
Yeah.
a good chance you do now.
Yeah.
Very soon it'll be all of the United States. So if you're lucky enough to be in one of the 13 starting states and the 16 that are coming up, or just, like she says, drive across the borders to one of the states.
I do. I have patients who live in Connecticut. Connecticut's one of the licenses I'm working on. I'm licensed in New York, and she drives to New York. And as long as you're at the time of the appointment in the state that I'm physically, or I'm licensed in, you do not have to live in the state that I'm licensed in. You can just physically be present at the time of the appointment, and that's the legal point there. That's the sticking point.
Right. Well, I can tell you're so passionate about what you do. You're just such a great doctor, and you're so darn good looking. It's a pleasure. Well, she's a Scorpio.
Making me blush.
Yeah, no, really, you are. People did not believe you were almost 50. Like maybe just graduating.
Yeah,
college.
6 months.
Do you have, I know I keep saying we're leaving, but people keep posting questions.
Yeah.
I'm sure they can go to the website, but do you happen to know which states you're already working in?
Yeah. So for sure. All right. I'm going to go from west to east.
This is it, guys, because she has to go do telemedicine.
Yeah. I do have appointments coming up.
Right.
Let's see, California, Washington State. Then we moving west, we go to Colorado, Texas, Arkansas, Georgia, Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Virginia, New York. Which one am I missing? North Carolina.
Nice.
Boom.
Fantastic. Terrific. Thank you so much, Dr. Marvis. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Come back tomorrow at 2 p.m. when I'll be interviewing live from the True North Health Center, Dr. Jen Hawk. Stay safe, everyone. Thanks so much. Thanks, Dr. Marvis.
Thank you. Bye.